Yo, what's good, everybody? Austin here, or Luna. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day so far, wonderful night, whatever time of day it is you're watching this. I hope it's a wonderful one, man. So today's story, it's a good one, and it's one that I, haven't told before, and I get requested to do story times like this all the time about this topic, and this one includes the topic I get requested on all the time, and it's very unique and funny and crazy, and I think you all will enjoy it. So let's get into it. Today's story time all starts off as a regular day back when I was 18 years old. This was like 2 months after I turned 18. Now around this time, it was like right before I moved to California. It was probably like just a couple months before. And around this time, life was going pretty good for the most part. My YouTube was going absolutely crazy at the time. This was when I was like blowing up really, really big on YouTube. A lot of people were finding my channel that had never heard of me before. That kind of stuff. And YouTube was going good. I was, living at home still with my mom, but I was about to move out. I knew that was happening soon. Life was good for the most part. However, there was one thing that was going on in my life at the time that was, not the best, I would say. Me and my mom were constantly getting into arguments, like all of the time. And, it's funny. I thought like me being 18 and an adult and like, making my own money and stuff would like change that dynamic between me and my mom. But it just seemed like it made it worse. You know what I mean? I feel like I was arguing with her even more because I thought, I'm an adult. I shouldn't have to, hear my mom like yell at me now. So I would like always use that as like a card. I'd be like, well, I'm an adult now. I'm an adult. You can't yell at me. And she'd be like, it doesn't matter. You're still being messy and you're still disrespecting my house. And, we'd get in arguments all the time. And this was like any other normal day back then, man. I was 18. I was sitting in my room. I remember it was like 9:30 p.m. Like I had woken up like 2 hours ago. My sleep schedule was absolutely fucking fried. And I had just woken up a couple hours prior and I was just playing some Xbox in my room at like 9:30. Or actually, no, I think it was PC. I think I was on my PC playing CS. It was either Xbox or PC. I was on both at the time. I was just chilling, playing some video games. And my mom like walks in my room super like angrily. She like storms in and she was like, Austin? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, you want to explain why the entire sink is full of dishes right now? And I was like, I made dinner earlier and I haven't cleaned them yet. And she goes, okay, so get off your game and go clean them. And I was like, not right now. I'm in the middle of something. I will do it after. And she goes, pause your game, get up and clean the dishes. Now, I'm pretty sure I was playing CS or COD. It was one of the two. Both of those games are multiplayer shooter games. You can't just pause them in the middle of a game. Well, you can, but you get kicked for being AFK. So I'm not trying to do that. And I tried to nicely explain it to her. I was like, I can't just pause it. I'm in the middle of a game. Like I'll get kicked. I'll get penalized. Like I'm just give me like literally 5 to 10 minutes. It'll be done like really quick. And she goes, no, like go do it now. And I was like, no. And she goes, are you saying no right now? I was like, yes, I just said no. And I was kind of giving her a little bit of attitude. And I can't lie. Like this was kind of on me, man. I was kind of being a dick. But at the same time, like growing up in my household, dishes were never that important to my mom. Like I would literally leave dishes in the sink after dinner all the time. And I would usually clean them later on. I wouldn't like leave them there forever. That's fucked up. I would just clean them like a couple hours later. And it was never a problem. It just felt like this was a recent development with my mom. And it was just kind of annoying. So I was giving her attitude about it, right? Shouldn't have. Obviously, I shouldn't have done that, but I did. I can't change it. So anyway, after I told her no, she got pretty offended. She was like, okay, well then how about I just unplug your game? And I was like, Mom, I'm a grown man now. I am not 15 anymore. You can't just take my Xbox away. And if you do try and take it away, I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to buy another one. Yeah, I kind of flexed on my mom a little bit. I kind of feel bad about that one. I flexed on her and I was like, let's go buy another one. And she was like, okay, then I'll take that one too. And I was like, okay, then I'll move out. And she goes, fine. And she storms out of my room, right? And I was just like pissed off. I was like, this is just fucking annoying. So I ended up finishing my game really quick and I got done. And I remember I threw on my backpack and I threw on my hoodie and I was like, fuck this. I'm going for a night walk. Because whenever I was stressed out back then, and even now to this day, if I'm stressed and it's like the middle of the night, nothing feels better to me than just going for a late night walk. If you guys live in like a relatively safe area and you're adults, you should try it sometime. It's a nice thing to do. Obviously, if you're a teenager or a kid and you're watching my videos, don't do that. Do not be sneaking out late at night and going for walks because that's dangerous. But yeah, as a grown man, I like doing that sometimes. And that's what I was going to do. So I got up, grabbed my stuff, and I started walking towards the front door. And I had to walk past my mom's bedroom to walk towards the front door. And she opened it and she was like, where are you going? And I was like, I'm going for a walk. Like, I'm stressed out. I'm in a bad mood. I just want to walk it off. Then I'll come back and do the dishes. And she's like, no, do them now. I asked you to do them. You said after your game's over. You're not leaving. Do it now. And I was like, can you please just let me have this? Like, I am stressed. I just want to get out for like 20 minutes. I will be back and I will do the dishes. Like, I can do them when I'm home. I promise. And she was like, no, promise isn't enough. Do it now. And I was like, why do they need to be done right now? Like, you were about to go to bed. You're not making food right now. It's your bedtime. Like, why do you want them done right this second? And she was like, because it's the principle of the whole thing. Like, you need to do it now. And she was right. I did say after my game I would do it, but at the same time, I was so pissed off and in such a bad mood that I knew if I did those dishes, I would do a shitty job. So I looked at my mom and I was like, look, Mom, I'm sorry, but I'm leaving. And I go to turn around and I open the door. And she walks down the hallway and slams the door closed before I can walk out of it. And she goes, do those dishes right now. And I was like, get out of my way. And she was like, no. So I turned around, I went back to my room and I closed the door and I locked it. And I went to the top drawer of my dresser and I pulled out an old blunt that I had not smoked. And around this time, I was actually not smoking at all. I hadn't smoked in like months at this point. And I put the blunt in my backpack, went back upstairs, went to the front door, started opening it. She walks out of her room again. She's like, where are you going? And I was like, I'm leaving. Bye. And I slammed the door closed and I started walking down my driveway. And she opens it and she's screaming at me. She's like, get the fuck back here. Like, do the fucking dishes. And I was like, nah. And I walked down the driveway and I ignored her. Am I proud of it? No. Was it a good thing to do? No. Did I do it? Unfortunately, yes. Yeah, I don't know. For 18 years old, I was still kind of acting like a kid. I can't lie. So whatever. But yeah, I walked down my driveway, started walking down the sidewalk and just away from my house. I basically ran away from home at 18, which was kind of a funny sentence. But yeah, I ended up just walking away from my house, just like taking a walk. I didn't know how long it was going to be at this point. I didn't know how long the walk would be. All I knew is that I was stressed and I needed to walk. So I ended up walking probably about 3 miles until finally I stopped in front of an old church that I used to go to when I was a kid. And outside this church, there was benches you could sit on. And I just sat down on one of the benches. At this point, it was probably like, I don't know, like 11 at night. And I was sitting down on this bench in front of this church I used to go to when I was a child. And I was just sitting there. And I remember like kind of just sitting there staring at the ground. I was like staring at the rocks on the ground. At one point, I pulled out my phone. I was just kind of scrolling social media. And I was just stressed, man. I remember being very stressed because like this walk was only supposed to be a quick 20-minute thing, come back, do the dishes, go back to chilling, playing some games. But it turned into a whole fight with my mom, and I was stressed because I was kind of being a dick to her. I was stressed because I thought she was overreacting about the dishes. To be honest, the most stressful thing about this whole thing was it just felt like it didn't need to happen. It felt like this whole situation didn't need to happen and could have been avoided, but like whatever, it already happened, and that's why I was stressed out, right? And while I was sitting there just kind of like stressing out on the bench, about 15 minutes later, as I was sitting there, all of a sudden, a man sits down next to me. And I look over and then I look back at the ground and I have to like do a double take. Because I'm like, did I just see what I think I did? And I look to my right again at this guy sitting next to me. And it is a man in a full priest outfit. A full-blown priest sits down next to me. And then I realize after looking at his face, it's the same priest I used to have when I was a child at that church. And I used to go there with my family. Now, I'm not going to use his real name in this story time. So for the sake of the story, we'll call him Father Michael. Okay? And I remember I looked at him and I was like, Father Michael, is that you? He goes, yeah, it is me. How you doing? Do we know each other? And I was like, yeah, I used to go to this church all the time when I was a kid. And I was like, I actually cracked my head open here once. And that's a true story. I don't know if I've told that before on this channel, but when I was like 8 years old in church, I fell in the middle of church and I cracked my head open really bad and I had to get rushed to the hospital. And he goes, Austin. I was like, yeah, Father Michael, it's me. Like, how you been? It's been a while. He's like, oh my gosh, I did not expect to see you here. And I was like, yeah, I'm just hanging out, relaxing. He goes, yeah, this late at night on one of the benches outside? Like, what's going on? Are you okay? And I was like, honestly, I've had better days. And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, to be honest, I got into a whole fight with my mom. Like, we were just arguing with each other and like, yelling at each other. And I ended up storming out and going for a walk. And I just don't want to go home. So I'm sitting out here just stressed out. And he goes, what was the argument about? And I told him. He was like, that sounds like a really silly reason to be mad at each other. And I was like, honestly, Father Michael, you are 120% right. You are definitely 120% right about that one. And I agree. And he's like, yeah, why don't you get up? Why don't you go home? Why don't you go apologize to your mother? She's a good woman. And I was like, you're right. My mom's a great lady. But at the same time, I don't want to apologize to her because honestly, I don't feel sorry. And he's like, that's understandable. I understand. I got into arguments with my parents when I was your age, and there was tons of moments where I didn't feel sorry either. But all I'm saying is I think you'll feel a lot better if you do that. And I was like, yeah, well, when the time comes and I go back home, I will. And he goes, okay, what are you going to do in the meantime? And I was like, honestly, I think I'm just going to sit here for a while until I feel good enough to walk back home. He goes, how far do you live? I can give you a ride if you need it. And I was like, no, it's fine. I don't live far. I'll just walk. And he goes, okay. And then I thought about it for a second, and I was like, wait a minute. Why are you here right now? It's like so late. Like, do you have like a service or something at night? And he goes, yeah, we do have night services, but no, right now I'm just here like doing some maintenance, just cleaning up a bit, making sure everything's okay. And I was like, okay. And he goes, yeah. And after that, I can't lie. I was still just so stressed and so like in a bad mood. I start pulling out the blunt from my backpack. And I looked over at Father Michael and I was like, look, Father Michael, I'm sorry if you don't want to be around this. I'm going to warn you right now. I'm about to smoke some weed. So if you don't like that stuff and you don't want to be around it, I completely understand. I can leave, or if you want to move, it's up to you. And he goes, no, it's okay. Do your thing. Yeah, guys, that's how stressed out I was. I was willing to light up a blunt right in front of my priest, like the one I used to see all the time as a child at church. And I was that stressed. And I lit up right in front of him, dude. I lit the blunt right in front of him and I started smoking it. And he's just watching me. And I look over at him and I was like, is this offensive to do? He goes, no, why would it be offensive? I was like, I don't know. Like, you're a priest. Like, I feel like I'm breaking some like religious law here. He goes, no, you're okay. And I was like, okay. And I take a couple more hits, and he's just eyeing me, man. He's like eyeing me smoke this blunt. And I thought he was mad at me. I can't lie. I genuinely thought he was upset with me because I was smoking a blunt in front of him and being like disrespectful. And then after like my third or fourth hit, he looks at me again and he goes, you mind if I take a puff? And I was like, Father Michael, did you just ask me to hit my blunt? He goes, I did, Austin. I did. And I was like, is that like allowed? He goes, no, it's illegal. Because at the time it was illegal where we lived. And I was like, no, I mean like in the church, like you're a priest. Like, is there something in the Bible that like, says you can't smoke weed? He goes, not that I'm aware of. And I was like, really? He goes, I don't think so. And I was like, okay. I just didn't question it. And I gave Father Michael the blunt and he starts ripping the blunt with me. And I was like, this is not happening right now. Like, I can't believe this. He goes, Austin, do me a favor. Don't tell your mother and don't tell anyone from the church. And I was like, I won't, Father Michael. And I was like, this is crazy. And yeah, Father Michael went on to tell me that he actually smokes very frequently. He smokes on like a nightly basis before bed. It helps him sleep. It helps with his pain. He has like arthritis. And he was telling me all about like how he kind of uses it as a medicine. So he's pretty much accustomed to smoking. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, that's good. I'm glad it helps you. And he's like, yeah. And I just couldn't believe it, man. I was learning so much lore about my like childhood priest. It was crazy. And we're like chilling there on this bench, smoking a blunt together, me and Father Michael. And he's telling me about how like when he first started smoking, he was like 30 and now he was in his 50s and was smoking still. And I'm smoking a blunt with my 50-year-old priest, bro, at 18. It was just crazy. So me and Father Michael end up smoking the entire blunt together pretty much. And we both got done. I just couldn't stop giggling, dude. I was giggling like a fucking little girl, dude. I was laughing so hard. And he kept looking at me being like, what's so funny? What's so funny? And I just couldn't stop laughing to even tell him. And finally I did. And I was like, I don't know, like this whole situation, this whole night, it feels like a fever dream. And he's like, I know, you're telling me. I'm smoking a blunt with Austin. He says my last name. He's like, I watched you grow up from a child and now I'm smoking a blunt with you. I feel like I'm committing a sin right now. And I was like, honestly, Father Michael, I don't know. You might be. And he laughs. And it was just a very interesting scenario, to say the least. Like, it was just wild. But it gets even better. It gets so much better. So after I'm sitting there on this bench, smoking a blunt with my former priest, hanging out, right? Like 10 minutes into it, maybe 15. Like, we're about to finish. And all of a sudden, I see a cop car pulling into the church parking lot. And I was like, whoa, that ain't good. And me and Father Michael both looked at each other with the look of like, uh-oh. Because, even though we were both adults, making adult decisions, it was still technically illegal where I lived at the time. And pretty, not something to joke about. Now it's a little bit different. Now where I live, it's decriminalized. I think it's medically legal and there's dispensaries and stuff. It's a whole different situation now. But back then, if you got caught with weed, especially smoking out in public, you could get in a shit ton of trouble. So we kind of both looked at each other like, uh-oh. And I took the blunt and I put it out of my shoe really quick and I threw it in my pocket. And the cop ends up pulling up to us and he rolls the window down and he goes, hey guys, hey Father Michael. So he knew Father Michael. And Father Michael's like, hey, how you doing, officer? And he says his last name. So they knew each other. And the cop's like, what's going on tonight? How you guys doing? And we're both just like, good. And the cop's like, yeah. Father Michael, you having your nightly happy session? And I didn't know what the fuck that meant. I was like, happy session? What kind of fucking code word is that? Like, what? And Father Michael's like, yep, just got done with old Austin here. And I was like, wait a minute. They talk about smoking weed? Is the cop like joking about smoking weed with Father Michael right now? Like, is that what he's saying a happy session is? They're just smoking weed? And I was like, what? And I was like looking confused. And the cop laughs and he goes, how old are you? And he points to me. And I was like, 18. He goes, okay, you're an adult. Okay. Well, look, in the future, I got to say, probably not a good idea to be smoking outside. And I was like, yeah, I understand. He goes, okay, good. You get a pass today because you're with Father Michael. And Father Michael always gets a pass because he's an officer of the church. But you can't be doing that outside. It's illegal. And I was like, okay. And he goes, all right, you guys have a good one. And he drives away. And I look over at Father Michael and I was like, what was that? And he goes, oh, he's a good buddy of mine. We went to school together. I was like, and you just acted to be surprised to see him? Like, you gave me that look of like, oh no, we're caught. He's like, yeah, I was just messing with you a little bit. And I was like, thanks, Father Michael. Thanks. And I look at him and I was like, so do you smoke outside here, like on this bench a lot? Because it seemed like that cop already knew what was going down. And Father Michael goes, yeah, I've smoked out here quite a few times after my duties are over for the night. Like, it happens a lot. And I was like, wow. And I was just in disbelief, bro. The situation just kept unfolding and kept getting more and more insane to me. And yeah, apparently, Father Michael, since he's a officer of the church, according to the police officer, you just get a pass to smoke outside. In my town, if you're a priest, you could just smoke a blunt outside and the cops don't give a fuck. Anyway, after this, I was like, well, there's still some blunt left. You want to finish it? And Father Michael's like, if you do. And we finished it together. And as we were finishing it, I was just asking him about that cop, asking him like how often that cop patrols around here. And he says pretty much every night he drives by because it's a part of his like nightly, I don't know, like patrol or something. And we talked about that for a little bit, thought that was kind of funny. And then when we finished the blunt, we went our separate ways. I got up, I shook his hand. I was like, Father Michael, thank you for a night I will never forget. He then made a joke saying that he hopes I forget this night because, you know, he obviously didn't want me going around telling people that he smoked weed. And I told him, I was like, don't worry, I'm not going to tell anybody. Like, your secret's safe with me. And he's like, well, it's not much of a secret. It's just, I don't want the whole town to know. And I was like, yeah, of course, I won't. And then, like, just as I was about to walk away, he told me I should stop smoking weed. And I was like, how are you going to tell me that right after smoking a whole blunt with me? And he laughed. And yeah, we went our separate ways after that. I just walked away. And I went back home. I walked home immediately, got back inside. My mom was in the kitchen waiting for me, which was crazy. She had been waiting for a while. I remember she was standing like over the stove, like making tea or something. And she's like, hey, welcome back. And I was like, hello. And she goes, have a good walk? And I was like, yeah, actually I did. And guys, I was so stoned. I was so like, dude, my face looked insane. And she knew it. She looked at me and she goes, yeah, it looks like you had a good walk. You smoke a little bit while you're on that walk? And I was like, yeah, actually I did. And she was like, wow, that's just real nice, Austin. That's just real nice. And all I wanted to do was tell her that I smoked a blunt with Father Michael from the church because I knew her head would probably explode if I said that. And she'd be like, what? No way. Tell me everything. But I didn't do that because I specifically remember Father Michael saying not to do that. So I didn't do it for him. I respected his wishes. And yeah, I went over to the sink and I just started washing the dishes. And my mom's like, thanks. Finally. I was like, yeah, no problem. You have a good night. And she goes, yeah, I'm going to bed. Good night. And she walks out of the kitchen. And she goes to her room. And I'm just washing dishes. And as I'm washing dishes, my brother comes out in the kitchen. And he's watching me do it. And he's like, you look fucked up, man. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, dude, your eyes. Did you smoke? I was like, yeah. He goes, dude, I thought you quit. And I was like, I did. But tonight I was so stressed out that I came back. He goes, yeah, man, you look gone. You look like you just smoked for the first time ever. And I was like, yeah, man, I feel like it. And I just couldn't hold it in, man. I was like, dude, you're never going to guess who I smoked with. And you cannot tell a soul. And he's like, who? And I was like, bro, Father Michael. He goes, what? I was like, Father fucking Michael. He goes, am I hearing that correctly? Are you talking about the priest we used to see when we were kids at church? I was like, yes. Father Michael the priest. He still works there. And he came out when I was sitting on a bench outside of the church and he smoked a blunt with me. And he goes, you're fucking with me. I was like, dude, I swear on everything. Father Michael smokes weed and we smoked a blunt together. And he's like, you are fucking with me. Stop it. And I was like, dude, I swear. And finally, after like 5 minutes of convincing him, he finally believed me. And he was like, dude, that's insane. And we both were just like super geeked about it. And I can't lie, I feel bad. I told someone immediately after the dude was like, don't tell anyone. Like literally, I just couldn't keep my big fucking mouth shut. But the good news is I didn't tell anyone else, and me and my brother kept it a secret. He didn't tell anyone either. And from that point forward, we told nobody. But yeah, every time we'd see Father Michael out and about, like in the town, from that point forward, me and my brother would kind of look at each other and be like, oh, we know what you do. It was just funny, man. But overall, one of the most interesting nights I've ever had in my entire life. Like I've had a lot of interesting things happen to me and a lot of interesting story times take place, but this one is truly one of a kind. Like there's not one story on this channel that's like this one. So I thought I would tell it today. But yeah, that is the story. Moral of the story is, well, to be honest, I guess just don't be like young me. I don't know. Don't be storming out of your house in the middle of the night to smoke weed with your priest. Although I don't think any of you are going to be doing that. So that's good. But yeah, guys, that is the story time. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you guys did enjoy listening to it, please leave a like on the video. I would really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace.